My name's Alyssa. I am with the city manager's office, and we will do a quick introduction of city staff. So we want the city staff to come up and introduce themselves.
All right. Good afternoon. George Estaros, Chief of Police for the City of Anaheim.
I'm Sandra Lozo. I'm the Community Preservation and Licensing Manager / Homeless Liaison for the City of Anaheim. That's short for Code Enforcement, Tax Collection, and Homelessness.
John Yepes, Lieutenant District Commander for the South District, which covers this area, in charge of the resort, community policing, and other teams.
Hi, my name's Armando. I'm the South District Community Policing Team Sergeant. I cover this area, so whatever questions you have, I'll be able to answer later on. Okay?
Hi, I'm Officer Cesar Vasquez with the Community Policing Team for the South District, and I'm one of 2 officers that work down here.
Good evening. My name is Dooku Lee. I'm the Public Utilities General Manager, and we have a lot of information here for you tonight, so please make sure to stop by.
Hello everyone, I see some familiar faces. Hi, I am Carmela Mendoza. I am the Crime Prevention Specialist for this area, so I'll be speaking to you a little later about how to start up and kick off a neighborhood watch for you guys.
Good evening. My name is Eric Trapp. I'm the Commanding Officer for Operations Support Division. So I actually oversee all our community policing efforts as well as traffic, the resort, and some of those different areas.
Awesome. And Adelina Valencia, council member for District 4 here, which is known as the Resort District. Thank you so much for all of you joining us this afternoon to talk about these critical issues in the city of Anaheim. Thank you very much our team at City Hall for coming out and also providing the information and resources to our residents. And a special shout out to Ms. Garcia and also Amanda for offering up their gracious home to allow for this meeting to take place. So with that, we're going to jump right into it and get on the presentation from the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being here today. Again, my name is George Jorge. I'm the Chief of Police here, and I have a great team. Public safety is not solely just the police department. Obviously, we have people in public utilities. We have code enforcement. We all work really, really well together in addressing those issues that may impact our communities throughout Anaheim. So just to give you a little bit of information, I think the individuals behind me will be able to answer a lot of your questions, but it's always important to understand where we're at today. Obviously, we all went together through a humongous deal pandemic, and what did that do to the city and the resources and so forth? One of the great things is that we did not lay off any individuals, but at the same time, we had a freeze. And as many of you know, in any large organization, individuals tend to retire and so forth and move on. And so our numbers got really low. We were budgeted prior to COVID for 408 police officers. We went down into 350. We still provided full service, but we had to actually address them at a different way of addressing them. We also took us a little bit longer and so forth. And so we had to make some decisions to make sure that we still provided full service to our community, and that's what we did. And so some of the data we'll provide to you kind of assisted us in understanding where we had crime, and we put officers in areas where crime occurs. So that's one of the things we'll talk about here. One of the great things is that we have a great council support. We found some grants, and with the assistance of council, we've been able to push back an additional 22 positions onto the 386 that was budgeted this year. So we're almost to full strength again. But one of the things about policing is it's a little bit different, right? And I had a different profession prior to becoming a police officer. And in my profession, I was an architect. You could, interview that person for 2-3 weeks, see their work product, and boom, you give them a table and you tell them go to work. And that could be done easily within 2 weeks. In policing, it's a little bit different. You get a new employee, it takes us about 6 months to really go through the process, and then they have to go to an academy. That's an additional 6 months. And then they have to go through some field training. That's an additional 6 months. And so as you can imagine, it takes 18 months to really get a police officer. So we're going through that. Recruitment is our #1 priority right now. We have 37 vacancies. We will also have retirements, about 15. So we understand that we need about 50. But rest assured, we still address issues of crime and quality of life with the assistance of our other departments to make sure that we give you the best and safest community possible. So I think I don't want to speak too long, Those are the things that have been going on. We are also looking at technology. We have some great programs that we're going to be pushing out through drones and so forth on how to address quality of life issues. It takes us a long time to address certain things such as trespassing, which maybe today we'll talk a little bit about. But trespassing is very complicated in the sense of we need to go out there and inform individuals that they're trespassing and give them an ability to remove themselves. So imagine at times we have to go back twice. So hopefully with some technology we'll be able to address this one time and one time only. Is there any questions that individuals may have? The last thing I'm going to talk about is really what we saw in last year's data, crime data in this area. And we saw an increase. And that was because we saw a decrease during the pandemic period and then an increase has arisen from that. And some of it is obviously you calling us and telling us there's some crimes that have occurred, but also it's a proactiveness that we do. So how crime is broken up to is two parts, and that's kind of changed. In my 32 years, we used to call it Part 1 and Part 2 crime, but we just went to NIBRS in October, and now it's called Part A, Part B. There's person, property, and society. So our data is not matching. Previously, we were able to give you apples to apples every year comparative. This year, it's going to be difficult because now crime is statistically added differently than previous years. But we did notice proactiveness in this area, which means that the men and women of this organization have been addressing those quality of life issues, low-level offenses, and therefore crime rises because they're creating reports because of arrest or citations. But that being said, we definitely know that there is some quality of life issues that are addressing not only in this area, but throughout all of our 50 square miles, the 25,000 businesses that we have here. So I'm going to let them discuss a little bit of this. Code enforcement is really connected to us when it comes to homelessness and how we address that. Homelessness is not a crime, but unfortunately at times those individuals that are homeless may commit those low-level offenses that we have to address. So we tried to address it by obviously creating the CCRT, and now we have BWLOC, which are clinicians going out into the field and trying to address those issues first and foremost before police officers get involved. So the reality is, police officers need to have a base when they make contact. As an example, an individual screaming at the top of their lungs at the corner is not a crime. But it's still something that we get a call on. But now we have some great tools to address those first and foremost. If we find a criminal nexus, the police department gets there and we address those issues from that standpoint. That's the reason why we created the CCRT team and BWLOC, and in partnership with code enforcement. That's how we've been addressing some of those issues to try to get them the resources looking long-term instead of short-term solutions. So is there any questions I may answer here for you? Who's next?
Chief, and if I could interject before we move on, I'd like to just take a quick second to also introduce our District 4 team. If any of you have any questions or concerns or need help with facilitating communication with our wonderful city departments and staff, please feel free to reach out to my team as well. We have Dr. Tina Arias Miller standing in the back there, Valeria Sandoval, who is a senior policy aide, as well as is Dr. Miller, and then Luis Torres, who is also a senior policy aide, and then my lovely wife just joined us as well in the back, just to say hi. Local Anaheim cute as well. Thank you.
All right. So I'll talk mainly about homeless. I think that was the biggest issue on the agenda for today, but there's a little bit of code enforcement overlap. So we assist our police department when they have to maybe help take a homeless person to the shelter or have to unfortunately arrest them. We help book all the property. So that takes them and lets them go back into service while we sit there, because as you can see, sometimes they have a lot of staff, so that takes more time. So our staff handle that piece. And so the chief and I have been constantly working the last few years on what other stuff can we pull away from the police that's not crime related to keep them in service on all those priority calls that everybody would want if you call 911, that they're there quickly. So that's what we've been working on the last few years. I think some important things to understand, at this point in time, we have over 250 people in our shelters right now that just a few years ago were all on our streets. So that's a huge endeavor that we've done over the last few years, but we're not done. So on top of getting people off the streets into the shelters, we're moving them into housing projects. And so just so you know, during COVID, we had the old Sandman Motel off of Lincoln and East Street torn down, and we built the El Verano, and right before Christmas of 2020, we were able to get formerly homeless seniors into that new housing development before Christmas, and we filled it up very quickly. And that's because we're getting more data on demographics of our homeless population, getting them through our shelter system, getting them matched up with the right resources, and processing them through for the housing plans, and then getting them to the right housing project. So that helps us. We also had a motel conversion project that was done and we try and spread it out across the city. So we had a motel conversion project, an old Econo Lodge on the west side of town at La Palma and Magnolia. And we converted that to Buena Esperanza, which is permanent supportive housing units, 69 individual units, because we knew in our data that we have a lot of single adults out there, a lot of people in their 40s and 50s, a lot of males. So we knew we had to address that population. We also have a project going on right now off of Manchester and Orangewood. So again, we're kind of spreading it out a little bit, called Finnemore Place, which is going to be affordable housing, but also we're having some units set aside for our homeless as well. So we're constantly looking at that. The City Council just approved to purchase the Studio 6 at Harbor in the 91. We've been utilizing that motel for a long time for bridge housing in case we need to maybe get someone off the streets and then get them into the shelter later, maybe in the middle of the night. It's a young adult in the middle of the night. We want to get them at least to a motel on a safe spot, and then we can move them over to the shelters the next morning. So we've been utilizing that motel. That owner's very cooperative, and so now we're going to be doing partial permanent supportive housing units and still having some bridge housing units for us. If you don't know, in order for us to do enforcement related to camping on homelessness, we have to be able to provide them and have available beds for them and offer it to them, and they have to decline. So it's a huge system that we have in place that our officers know, our new community care response team know, our shelter operators know, pretty much all the departments now know. So we have a whole system in place that we go out, we offer our resources, our outreach services. If they decline, we have an app that we record all that information. If we have to send the PD out, then we have that documented that we already offered those resources, and then we can do certain enforcement. So we were under a settlement agreement from the riverbed. Remember, they were all on the riverbed. We cleared that out and they kind of scattered everywhere. So that's where we saw activity jump up in our city. And so through that settlement, it actually expired November 2nd of last year. Two things that we had to do. We had to have 325 beds under that settlement. So we don't have to have 325 beds in that now, but we have 426 right now, which is still good. And then the other thing is we had to wait 24 hours to do enforcement after we offered resources, which we don't have to do anymore. So we've stepped up a little bit quicker to try and clear out a lot of areas, which has been really helpful. Our community care response team that the chief talked about, that was a pilot program. It started January 1, 2021. It ran a whole calendar year. And that's where we took our outreach team, CityNet, and we created a community care response team, or CCRT. We have its own webpage, or if you pull up our homeless webpage, you'll be able to see that information. And they added a nurse practitioner, mental health clinician, and plainclothes security officers out there. And they run 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So any homeless calls that come in that are non-emergency, non-criminal related, that come into our police dispatch, they now get transferred over to our CCRT dispatch. And the dispatchers are telling them this is non-criminal, non-emergency. You need to start calling this public number. And we can give that to you guys today too. And so now it's changing the culture because everybody was just used to 24/7. The only people up were homeless and cops. So it's just a natural reaction to call PD. But we're really trying to now have skilled professionals out in the field handle a lot of these social services and pulling the PD away. They're still involved, but they're not going to be those first responders. So that's been really beneficial. Our first year showed a diversion rate of 8.7% of the homeless calls coming into the PD diverted away. They never had to respond to it, went to CCRT. They were able to stay in service. They also averaged 3.8 people off the street every day and placed into our shelters. And again, we were able to kind of move through those housing projects that I talked about. They also, that funding is fully funded through, at that time, federal dollars that were related to COVID and street homelessness. So none of us had to pay for that. And we had to just provide COVID, personal protection equipment, but now we're doing testing and vaccinations out in the field with them, which is helpful. Salvation Army, that is one of our shelters, was the most vaccinated shelter in the entire county. And then we are looking to regionalize this effort. And I know the County of Orange just released an RFP, a request for proposal countywide for nonprofits in a very similar fashion to this community care response team. Santa Ana is also moving to that and live with that as well. So there is this energy now to kind of have more resources on the streets and not have our police have to respond to a lot of these social services. So we extended that contract for the next 2 years, and our next step this year is we looked at the calls that the PD are still responding to, and the number one voluminous call is trespassing. So now what we're test piloting that we started just last month is if someone calls in for a homeless trespassing, we're actually having our police dispatch triage it. If again, not an emergency situation, they're not barricaded in a vacant building, stuff like that. They're on a vacant lot. We're gonna have, we've been having CCRT respond first. And that trespassing warning issued by the skilled professionals is a little bit different than a police officer issuing that warning. So sometimes we're getting a little better response. Maybe they do accept shelter at that time. Or when we issue the trespassing warning, they now realize they're on private property and then they move. So then we've diverted the call to PD, and we may have diverted the second call from PD having to come out and do an arrest on trespassing. So we're starting to track that a little bit. Since we've been doing really good in all of our public spaces, we don't see 50+ encampments anymore in our parks like we had seen years ago because of our shelters. They go to the path of least resistance, so we saw a lot of activity in our Union Pacific Railroad areas that kind of come through this area, as well as some Caltrans properties under the 91, 5, 57, this area, you kind of see it. So Caltrans had a direct order during COVID that they weren't able to clear out any encampments unless it was health and safety related, or if you had a local partner with housing options. So we found that directive, because Caltrans wasn't working with us at the beginning. We found that directive and we said, we have housing options here. We have this whole system in place. So Caltrans just today said we're the best city in the entire state that worked well with them to clear out encampments in the area and get people housed. So we are actually doing a huge cleanup on this Friday, and they're actually going to go through the 91 and the 5 freeway, and they're also bringing out engineers from Caltrans to see what they can do environmentally to maybe change how this area looks where people are trespassing, to maybe permanently resolve so we don't have to keep doing cleanups every week. So they're going to be doing some projects along the 57, the 91 and 55 areas that'll probably be a positive influence. They did make some changes at Magnolia in the 91 where they cemented underneath, and that helped clear out where nobody can go underneath there and camp. So that's just an example. Union Pacific, our city manager, let us get in a direct contract with the contractors that UP uses, so we can contact them directly, and that's why we've been having weekly cleanups with UP every week, because we want to keep this area clean. Obviously, they're having a lot of issues, if you saw in the news, with their railroad cars getting vandalized and stuff in LA, but they've still been finding a lot of time for us. And then we've been doing a lot of parks operations. We just did one this week, and Boysen Park is on there, as well as Juarez and some other parks in this area. And so what happens, our PD goes in the early morning. We're usually doing like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. We bring our park staff to help with trash cleanup, and we bring our code staff to help on property cleanup. And so Boysen Park was clear of people staying in the park overnight, so that's an encouragement. But we're gonna keep checking each week on a few different other operations. But there was some trash and property left over, so we cleaned all that up. So we're gonna continue to do that as a deterrent for that particular park in this area. And then the last thing is the chief of police helped hire and get hired in the city council and the city manager's office a community prosecutor. So now that we have this huge, robust outreach service in the street, and now we have all our shelter beds and we have housing projects going up for our homelessness, we still have a small group that are causing the most calls for service, that are service resistive. And so our community prosecutor has now got that list of individuals, and we're working with him on cases in court to hold them a little more accountable, but also providing services too sometimes in court. So he already has had a few people get 365 days in jail because of crime that they are committing out there, but he's also gotten people into treatment. So we think that's another accountability piece that we've been missing, but we had to get all these other pieces in place, so if we get challenged, we can show in court. We've offered all these resources. We have all of these housing options. They're refusing. CCRT has skilled professionals that can explain why they don't have the mental fortitude to make the right decision, and then try and get them into treatment or jail. Sometimes jail will get them clean as well. and then maybe have stay away orders in some of our parks and public spaces for them if they get out. I know it's a lot of stuff. I am gonna then pass it over to Alyssa because I think it's important that whatever you're seeing, whatever looks weird, suspicious, use your My Anaheim app. There is a homeless tab on there. Use the Anaheim Anytime online as well. That information will go straight to our CCRT team. They will get out there right away. If they can't handle it or it is criminal related, they automatically will route it over to our CPT teams and then they will go out there. So we have this system in place. But if you report it, as soon as you see one or two, maybe starting to congregate somewhere, let us know, and then when we get out there, we'll be able to address that quickly. I know there's a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions?
So in theory, the housing sounds amazing, right? But I guess my question is, for the shelter, is there a time frame? So if somebody is provided housing, how long can they stay in the shelter for?
So we try and get people cycle through the shelters in 120 days on average. But I can tell you there's a lot of people in our shelters that are employees in our city, that go to work in our city. There are people that have a housing voucher, they just can't get a unit because we have like a 2% vacancy rate in the county. So it's hard to get a unit right now. So we don't want to just kick them out. Oh, it's 121 days even though I have a housing voucher. So we're trying to keep those in our shelter, otherwise they're just gonna go back on the street. So there are a few people, probably a good handful, that have been in the shelter since the shelter opened, but we're still working with them because I'd rather them stay there than be back out on the street.
So it is permanent?
The shelters are not
I'm
permanent.
sorry, not the shelter, but when you transition them, I'm in housing, I work in housing. So
Awesome.
when you transition them from the shelter to housing, is the housing then permanent or is
Yes.
it also transitional?
No, so there's a couple. Sometimes depending if they get into the shelter, maybe they're a domestic violence victim, we have some transitional housing we can put them in, we'll do that. Some of the families with children, we try and do that as well. So we do have some transitional, but when they're going from the shelter into housing, most of it is gonna be permanent. So we have housing vouchers from the county, and then obviously we have our own, which has been helpful, and then we're getting more. So we're trying to create this system of care because it's a management system. There's always gonna be people falling into homelessness, and you can fall into it like this, but it takes a lot longer to try and get back out. So we wanna make sure we can capture that or prevent it and keep them in a system of some type of shelter. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Are you guys doing anything also to help them maybe find jobs as well?
Yes, that's a great question. So we have job placements and counseling and housing navigation. We have wraparound services in our shelter. We also were the city to let Chrysalis, which is a nonprofit out of LA County, which is kind of like a temp agency for employment for low income but also homeless individuals. And they have contracts with Disney, Caltrans, Marriott, a bunch of businesses around here. And we actually have them right next door to us at City Hall. So they're really helpful, as well as your police and fire chaplain created Love Anaheim. And so he also takes people out of the shelters and has them do projects throughout the week, whether it's redo the mulch or chip in the playgrounds at Boysen Park, or they'll paint out the trash cans. They've done fire hydrants for Dooku's team. So, and then as they're doing that, they're getting gift cards for food and clothing, and then they get referred into Chrysalis to try and get those jobs while they're being housed in shelter. So we want to get them sheltered first, get them stabilized. Some of them need some drug rehab, other type of stuff. So the more we can get them sheltered, then wrap around the services while we're in there, it's a lot easier. Thank you, and I'll be here for any more
I got
questions.
a question. We were talking about that trash up in LA, the box carts.
Yes.
Well, a couple of months back, they had another meeting over here at the Methodist Church. And this guy that lives up here by the city yard, okay, there's an alleyway there.
Yes.
Next, there's a little high wall. And he brought that up. You go look in there, it's about maybe 3 feet by 12 feet. They got, must be 2 feet of boxes. UPS, FedEx, empty ones, just, and you figure after he brought it up, they would go clean it up.
Okay, yeah,
I mean,
maybe
you
I
look at
can.
it, I passed by there Monday and we're still there.
Let me get your information after, and we'll make sure that that's part of their
but
route.
they're all empty boxes, you
Yeah.
know, they're just thrown in there.
Right, well, we'll definitely
Looks
get that
bad.
cleaned up. Thank you. All right, I'll pass it off to Alyssa.
So before I get started, I'm gonna ask some of Councilmember Valencia's staff to help pass out these handouts. my name's Alyssa again. I am a staff analyst with the city manager's office, and I will be talking about our My Anaheim app. Is anyone familiar with My Anaheim app or Anaheim Anytime? Okay, great. So I'm glad I'm here just to kind of talk more about it. Thank you. So this app, as well as the Anaheim Anytime, is a way for residents to submit any issues or concerns and to report it directly to the city. It's an easy and convenient way to do it just because you don't have to talk to anyone. You can do it all online or through your phone, and it's just really convenient. So the handout that's being passed around, it talks more about the My Anaheim app, which you could download to your phone. It's available on your iPhone, on the Apple Store, and as well as Android. So just to kind of go briefly about it, when you do submit a request, you will have to enter details that will help city staff locate the issue. Some of those details that they will be asking you is like the request type, and when you click that request type, it will give you a list of categories. It's not a lot, and if you can't find what your issue is related to, we encourage you to click other, just because one way or another, we have a whole bunch of categories internally that we could find whatever your report of the issue and who to send it to city staff. So we'll have something even if you don't see it on the app. The next thing you'll have to also include is the location of that issue. The easiest way to locate it is if you turn on your phone settings, turn on location. It'll automatically populate the location you're at if you are reporting it in real time. If not, you are able to, there's like a red pin that you can move to directly find that location, or you could type in the address. And if you want to, you could upload pictures. It's optional, but we do recommend it just because it'll help staff locate what the issue is and kind of just help them direct them where to go. And in the description section, we do want you to include as much details as you can, just so we know exactly what you're looking for. So if you see like graffiti, you want to put like, oh, it's on the wall on this corner, or if you see like, if you want to report homelessness, which is another option that you can do on this app, this is your chance to just kind of go more into detail about that issue or concern. And then when you do complete that request form, you just have to click next. It'll take you to a next page where you will include your contact information. You can submit it anonymously, so if you do it anonymously, you don't have to include your email, your name, your phone number. That's not required, but then you won't get an email confirmation. And usually an email confirmation is just kind of just reassurance, just to let you know that your request has been submitted. But even if you don't get it and you do decide to do it anonymously, the app does allow you to view My History. So on some of those screenshots that you have, on the bottom right, you'll see a My History button. And on that button, it'll take you to a page where it'll show all your past requests that have been submitted, what's been completed, what's still pending. So you'll be able to still locate that information and just see any updates that might come up on those previous requests. And then just as a side note, I mean, this presentation is going to be really quick because it's pretty simple. But if you do submit these requests through the My Anaheim app or through Anaheim Anytime, we just want to let everyone know that that site is not monitored on a 24/7 basis, and they will be addressed during business hours. So if you do have an emergency, then we do recommend you guys to contact 911, or if it's a non-emergency police concern, then you would contact their phone number, their non-emergency line, which is 714-765-1900. And I mentioned Anaheim Anytime. So My Anaheim app is directly connected with Anaheim Anytime, so they're just linked together. But if you don't want to use the app and you just want to submit it through our website, then you would have to go through anaheim.net/Anaheim Anytime. Hopefully that's easy enough. But if you have any questions, I do have my business cards here. I'll be sticking around until the end. But in the meantime, I'll be more than happy to take any questions you might have right now.
I just wanted to provide one clarification. When it's related to graffiti or parking, we do have people monitoring Anaheim Anytime. So if you put in Anaheim Anytime requests for parking enforcement that may be happening on a Friday night or Saturday, we do right now have 6 days a week coverage, and even into the evening hours and early morning hours, and then we're going to be adding a couple more, so we'll have even Sunday coverage probably in the next few weeks. And then our graffiti vendor, they answer those as well as CCRT for homeless. So you can put those in. There are people that are responding and getting those even on the weekends or at night. So even though the normal business stuff, tree trimming, that sort of stuff may wait till normal business hours, those three, actually we have people that are watching that at night and in the weekends.
Yeah, and the great thing with that is on the My Anaheim app, there is a category for homelessness and graffiti. So you'll have some confirmation that at least you'll know that it'll be attended to in real time.
And if I can add to that as well, I'd like to challenge all of us as Anaheim residents to do our part as well when we're driving out and about and we're in a safe environment or there's a safe opportunity to do so. If you see a bed frame or an old mattress on the side of the street and that's in graffiti, please do your part, take the picture, report it, because that's how we're all going to be able to keep our community and quality of life as high as possible. My wife and I do that if we're going to the grocery store, going to go grab some lunch, whatever the case may be. If you do see something, please report it, because that's how we're all going to be able to make Anaheim a better place for all of us.
Yeah, we definitely encourage it too, just because it really does help us keep the city clean. And honestly, I've seen requests come in from one individual, like maybe they submit 20 requests at a time. So it's normal to us. So don't worry about it. Don't worry if you feel like you're pestering us.
It's not your council member.
Yeah, Sandra knows. Yeah, Sandra knows. So definitely we encourage it. And again, I'll stick around towards the end if you have any questions. And for our next presentation, I want to bring back our police department again, just to kind of talk more about theft and neighborhood watch. So, thank you, everyone.
Hi, so the number one concern for the residents here in this area was vehicle break-ins, okay? And I just wanted to see how many people here have been a victim of a break-in to their vehicle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including myself. Okay, so I wanna kind of share with you the process, but I can tell you right now, not everybody reported that incident. Okay, so we utilize what's called crime analysis, and the chief talked about it a little bit. So for me, as a community policing sergeant, it's important for me to look at hotspots, and the way we figure out hotspots is a number of reports that are generated in a certain area. So if we have a homeless issue, if we have a break-in issue, a robbery issue, we can identify those areas based on the amount of reports that are being generated. So I know everybody says their vehicle is getting broken into, but it doesn't reflect what's being reported. So I was standing out front for a little bit, and I was talking to some of you as you're walking in, and I asked a few of you if you had reported your break-in, and you said no. And the number one reason was there was nothing inside my car. I really didn't care. And that's important for me because it generates a call, and it generates that crime analysis that I'm explaining to you guys. That way I can deploy my resources, my officers, or even other city entities to that area if we're having an issue, if we're having a problem. Over the last year, in a half-a-mile area here, we've had 36 reported incidents of various kinds. Related to homelessness, we've had 10 to 15 calls and about 20 property crimes, okay, within a year. And so I know there's more of that happening here, but we don't know that, and we can't use that to our advantage. So if you do report a break into your vehicle, typically what happens is officer will come out, or one of our police service representatives, they'll generate a report, they'll look at your vehicle. If they can obtain some kind of evidence out of it, it could be fingerprints, DNA, they will process your vehicle, okay? Once that's processed, it goes over to a handling detective. That detective will follow up with you if there's any video in the area, if they get anything back from that crime, from that evidence, then we have something to work with. So if you do become a victim of a crime, please report it. We made it actually really, really easy for you. You can log online now to the Anaheim APD website, and you can report online. You don't even have to leave your house. If you see evidence left behind by anybody, please call us so we can send somebody out there and address the issue. Okay? So the next question was, what can residents do to help prevent these crimes? So we can do a whole bunch of stuff. Okay? We can talk about neighborhood watch program, which my partner will talk about next, but we can talk about lighting. We can send one of our officers to maybe talk about the way your house is shown. Like, for example, if it's overgrown brush, you know, and it's dark in one area, we can help you with the lighting. That's where we utilize our partners down at the city, okay? And what are we doing to address this issue? So again, we utilize technology to our advantage, and once we see hotspots, then we can deploy patrol officers, community policing officers, and even work directed enforcement operations in the area, so we can catch people in the act of doing so. Okay? Is there any questions?
If I could also add to the reporting component, as a council member, I do firmly believe that I was elected to represent the voice and concerns of our residents, our neighbors, our friends and families, right? And through data, and it's so critical to actually be able to register that data, because through data, then as a council, and specifically as a council member, I can voice the need for more resources to be invested into these types of programs and endeavors to make sure that we lower whatever is taking place in those communities. So that's why it's so critical to actually report, because it does come full circle, and it is a holistic approach. It starts with the residents, you know, the reporting and doing their part, and then my responsibility to you all is to make sure that we're investing in appropriate resources to make sure that our quality of life improves.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
And to the council members' point, there's a website you guys can go to as well. It's called crimemapping.com. It's a really helpful website. It's crimemapping.com. And I know it's small, right? But this little red dot, you guys probably can't see for the most part. So that little red dot is where I'm standing right now, and there's no crimes in the last 28 days reported in this area. So that's why it's so important for us to see that. Now, don't be scared, because this is a lot of different stuff, right? But if I pull it, that's right. So, right, by and large, very safe neighborhood we're in here. But if we don't know about it, then that's where the problem is, to the councilman's point. So crimemapping.com, and that's just information for you as well. And you can filter it out by different crimes and whatnot, whatever you want to know. But just another resource for you.
Yes, sir.
We live a couple of doors down, and my granddaughter said she didn't report the break-in in our driveway because she said she had a friend in a neighborhood, another neighborhood in this area. Someone broke into her friend's car, and when they called, they told her that go online and fill out a form. And so she didn't think in her mind that was effective, just it's online, or how that's handled beyond that, just from another form.
I think the online process is a little bit geared towards making the process a little bit easier for you guys, but if you request, like I said, if you see some kind of evidence left behind, please let the dispatcher know that, so they know to send somebody out and process the vehicle or the scene, right?
Just to piggyback off Sergeant Pardo too, there's other ways behind the website and calling. You could also, she could have made a phone report, so she can do that over the phone. If there's no loss or nothing was taken and there's no evidence left behind, we have police service representatives that will be able to take the telephone call for you too. And I think the overlying message behind what we're here for today is community policing, right? So there's different aspects and different prongs of it. There's our partners over at the city, code enforcement, city council, police department, community. So a lot of it, if we don't know what's happening, we can't address it with all the resources that we have. So that's the biggest part of what this is setting up that communication, whether it's when Carmela discusses a neighborhood watch or reporting online. There's a lot of aspects and components to it. So that's what we're here to establish. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I had a neighbor that wasn't able to make it, but she asked if I could kind of speak for her part, which when they went out the first street, just touring, which is supposed to be that.
Yes.
And then something too, we talked about with the councilman the last time, like, are they making a phone call, like, what's happening in the process? So when I was handing out the flyers, she was leaving actually, and I got to talk to her, and they kind of in the middle, they have 3 trucks out there, they're big white trucks. She said, right before the pandemic happened, she said they got broken into, they stole
So,
That's what we're.
I'll get with you afterwards and get your friend's information, because I'd like to do a follow-up phone call.
Yeah.
And so I worked as a burglary detective for many, many years, and it's something very small, even like a credit card that gets stolen, we can always do follow-up on, okay? And so when I used to live in Anaheim, my place, I'll share this story with you, my place got broken into. They took fingerprints, they took DNA, none of that came back with anything, but the way we were able to locate some suspects was through the use of a credit card. And we were able to get video surveillance from the store that they used it at, and we were able to backtrack. We were able to get some information on their vehicle, we were able to identify them. But it's because I generated that report and we kept following up on those leads. So for your friend, there's that case that gets assigned to a detective, she can call the police department and they can provide the follow-up information to her report. But I'll get with you afterwards and talk.
She asked if I would share that.
Yeah, no problem.
Something for her. Okay, yeah, I didn't have that.
Absolutely.
And really quick, I more than understand the frustration that many of you and your neighbors feel that, hey, you know what, just like you said, why am I gonna bother calling? It's the seventh time, you know, it's gotta be still there, and we're still not gonna call. Again, to echo what the councilman said, look, I've gotta know about it, okay, so at least to generate a call, but at the same time, I think that larceny all over the, this is not an excuse, larceny all over the country is an all-time high. And there's things, and there's tips that Carmel's gonna go over to try to make us a little bit less victims. But I still gotta know about it. And this is a 50 square mile city where we have a variety of different crimes. And unfortunately, I can't always send an officer out to you. You know, just like the chief had said previously, we're up at 408 officers. We're rebuilding back up to that. We could do some of those things a little bit easier. And I'll be very honest, we've had to make thresholds as to how we're going to prioritize and how many people we have in different units. And violent, if you've been watching the news, violent crime is all over the country, and it's been skyrocketing, right? And we really, really want to combat. Not that property crimes aren't impactful to all of us, because I live in the city as well. But we've really got to ensure that people are safe from violent crime, and that's kind of our priority. As we get resources back, we continue to build up. We're going to reshift some of those services. We'll have additional personnel to be able to focus on those issues too. So again, it's not an excuse. It is what it is. But again, the only way we're gonna solve this thing is working together, and so we know about it. And then again, and it's been said several times, Dooku and his crew out here with the lighting and some of the tips that I know she's going to talk about because she's going to shove me off the stage, are going to be really imperative to be able to help sometimes like maybe so we're not thinking the cardinal. And I'll stop because I know you want to talk.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Carmela once again. I'm here to speak to you about Neighborhood Watch. So Neighborhood Watch is pretty much a group of neighbors that come together to look out for one another, right, to deter crime, to eliminate crime in their neighborhoods, right? This is a great start. I believe there's about 30 of you here, I counted, so that's awesome. Did you guys sign in? Is there a sign-in sheet here for tonight? Okay. This is great because this is a great amount of people. We could build on it. Ultimately, we want to make sure that you guys can get to know each other. You guys can either meet monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever you feel works best for you guys. I have a lot of active neighborhood watch groups that have block parties. They exchange contact. They're very effective in the sense they create a group, which would be either through like Facebook or even an email thread. You guys begin to look out for one another, let each other or your next door neighbor know, hey, I'm going on vacation. Can you look out for my home? Pick up the mail, right? Because criminals, they're driving around, they're walking around, they're looking to see, okay, the mail's piling up at this house. Perfect. Nobody's coming around here, so that's kind of, we want to look out for that type of behavior. Hey, you know what? There's a guy with a green shirt and, black pants that keeps walking around. send a message to your neighbors, let people know what it is that you're seeing. It's okay to report with one another the suspicious activity that you're experiencing. One of the things that I really like to do, like my sergeant had mentioned, was a flashlight walk. We can come out in the evening, walk around and see what it is that's attracting the criminals to your neighborhood. So like your neighbor, what is it about that house specifically? They keep coming back and they keep going away with, equipment, tools. So clearly, hey, don't leave your tools in your truck because they already know, that that's where things are being kept, right? How is the lighting there, right? So I can provide resources to public utilities. They come out. Do we need more lighting, right? There's free lighting that they provide. As long as you install it, it's completely free. The city of Anaheim offers various resources. It's just us coming together and really informing you and educating you as to what is available for you to take advantage of, right? So the next step would be to choose a block captain for you guys. So whoever you guys think would be the best person to take initiative, take the lead. If you think that you can do that, to just kind of be the coordinator and be the one to set up the group and let everyone know, hey, let's meet monthly. Let's start off with a flashlight walk around and see what we can detect through crime prevention through environmental design. Is it too dark around your neighborhood? Your landscape, can we cut it? You want to make sure that you don't have too much landscape as to where people can hide behind it. So a lot of various things that we can go over. Like Sergeant Pardo also said, reporting crime. I've also seen people say, well, I didn't report it because I think I left my car unlocked. So therefore, but they still took my stuff. We still want to know about it. So, we want to build the relationship with you guys where we're the community policing team. Our information is up here, our emails, our office numbers. We want to build the relationship where it's like, hey, I know someone at PD. I can email Carmela, I can call Carmela. This is what's happening, what can we do? We're here to help, we want to work together. We don't want you to feel like, well, why'd you even call Anaheim PD, they don't do anything. No, hey Carmela, this happened, I reported it, I haven't heard back, what can I do? We're here to help. We want to build that relationship with you guys. So if you guys are interested in starting a neighborhood watch, I'm more than happy to come to the next one. I can't be at all of them, unfortunately. We have too many neighborhood watch groups, but let's say, hey Carmela, in 6 months or in 3 months, can you come back and let us know about what the crime trends are? I'm more than happy to. Hey, we have an increase in catalytic converter thefts. Auto burgs are up. Fraud is huge right now. I've seen various presentations and just observed, just with on sale, people are getting into people's accounts. We recommend using a credit card, not your debit card, when you go for gas, just because it's so easy to just be a victim of that. Romance crimes, that's on the rise also. People laugh about it sometimes, but people will call you and build a friendship, and the next thing you know, they're taking money from you. So there's a lot of different things that I can just educate you on and inform you of what's going on. That's kind of the best way for us to relay the message to you guys, educate you. You guys let your neighbors know, and then that's how we kind of move forward. So, are there any questions about that? Yes, so far.
During our last meeting, there was a mention maybe of getting some kind of signs about no solicitation. Is that something we can legally do, or
For no solicitation?
to have solicitors come door to door? Because I know a lot of times that's people who are
I've
kind of
seen
scoping
them.
out the neighborhood.
Yeah, I've seen those individually at home.
Yeah, for your personal residence, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. Like the city must provide it, but you're allowed to do it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, individually. I know for us, like Neighborhood Watch, we can have Neighborhood Watch signs put up on your street, and then just to let people know, hey, you guys are a neighborhood that looks out for one another. So that's something we will work with you on.
So every like
Yeah.
3 to 4 months, we have these magazine people that look just like bad news. I don't really think they're selling magazines.
Yeah, you can report that. So on our licensing team and then code enforcement will actually go out and do enforcement on that. So solicitors, especially in residential, have to have a permit and they have to be background checked before they can come in your neighborhood and do anything. So like sometimes you see the curb painters, they only come at a certain time. They have to be permitted and background checked. So sometimes people will start putting flyers on your property. So those things you can let us know, and then we can kind of come through the area and stop them and make sure they have permits or background checks on that. If not, then we'll issue them notices of violation and they have to go in and get those stuff permitted. So they can't just be walking through your house trying to sell stuff. Now, Do we go after little boys selling the candy bars at the doors? You know, we talk with the parents on some of that stuff. But if they're associated with the nonprofits like Girl Scouts, those types of things, Boys and Girls Club, then usually they have their proper permits and everything.
Yes.
Hi, Camarilla. We have a neighborhood watch on McLeod Street, which is this street over.
Okay.
And we do have the signs in the windows. Is there a way that we can get them, like say, everybody now has cameras, you know, outside viewing everything.
Good.
Is there a way to get them like on the light posts that say this block is has televised or have cameras, or the street is being recorded, you know?
Yeah, I've seen those at commercial properties. I'm not sure when it comes to our public poles if we could have, like, they're being recorded.
If we buy them and then we would have somebody attach it so it's higher up where they could see it.
So you know what? It's funny you asked that because yes. So the city, the police department is looking at. There's a company called Flock Cameras, and so you can imagine everybody's making cameras these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
We really are trying to focus on one particular company that we've gone out and done our research on, because then we have the ability to monitor them as well. So now here's the deal. We put up 100 cameras in the city, or 300 cameras. We can't monitor every single one of them. But for you folks, they cost $2,500 a piece. They're not without expense. They're expensive. But that particular company allows us to monitor it. And I believe they have recording in the cloud. So if you have an issue, hey, there was a suspicious car driving through the neighborhood or whatnot, and hey, last night, and then we got broken into, and my neighbor got broken into. We can potentially go back in that as an investigative tool and say, oh, hey, we got, like in the instance where you're talking about, the four people were in the car, we can potentially go back, and if the camera caught it, depending where it's placed, we can say, hey, that's now, yeah, we at least have a license plate. We have workable leads now for that.
I know we've had people, we've had a lot of issues with one person that sells drugs, and they've had a warrant out for her arrest. Peter is aware of it. He works with Kevin. But I'm just saying, if we had just a sign, it's a dummy sign. They don't know if there's cameras around or anything, you know? Can we do that?
Sure.
Put it up on the city light pole, or?
Well, that I'm going to defer to.
Right. So we've seen neighborhood watch signs that go up on various poles like that. So
Thank you. Oh, nice.
Yes. Yes. So I haven't seen the cameras individually for your home. I have seen them, like you are being recorded. I've seen those at homes, commercial properties. We install through our public works department. As a group, you purchase the signs, and then we as a city install them on our street pole.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, because I know a lot of our neighbors have the Ring, and so they've gone through and asked, can we see that video? We've had officers come to the house and look for what happened. They had a guy dragging him down the street in a van. They were kidnapping him from that one house. And
Drug deal gone
Drug-
bad.
yeah, drug deal
I
gone
got that on slow motion.
Yeah, and a lot of police officers came through and asked for everybody with their Ring, give me the video. We want to see the video. We want to see the video. So, you know, so they know, hey, you're being recorded. I mean, how dumb can you be, you know? Well, yeah.
Some of them,
Never mind.
if it's not for enough money, they don't care if they get caught. I mean,
Yes.
I'm sorry, for just the general signs that you see that are out there, that are on the pole, how do we get those installed? That something that the neighbors purchasing gets installed, or is the city able to provide those?
The neighborhood watch signs, those the group purchases, and then we install them.
Yeah, we
I
have
the
them.
stickers that you could put individually in your home, but for the actual signs, the group themselves will purchase them and then we install them.
Okay, I know that we have several neighbors that
Yeah, we have them.
we're right off of Avocado and all the circles, so I know that we want them.
Oh yeah, we can
really
coordinate.
visible, at least on this side, and then I know on your side,
We have them, yeah.
the more we have, the better off. we
bundle
are.
and save.
Yeah.
We buy like 15 or 20 at a time.
Yeah, we can definitely coordinate that. So my information's here, so we can definitely be happy in communication for that. Any other questions? But I think, so no excuse, I saw flashlights being passed around.
Yep.
So a flashlight walk I think would be great.
Let's
And
go.
like I said, and I think, we wait until it's dark enough, because when we walk, we want to see, okay, this area is very dark.
and then I would, contact and communicate with my public utility staff and say, hey, can you please check out this area? It's really dark, and perhaps that's why there's a lot of criminal activity occurring. In dark areas, we'll have vehicles of people just coming, hanging out, doing who knows what, right? So those are the kind of things we want to educate you on, what you should be reporting, what to say when you call dispatch, right? For example, when the people were breaking into your neighbor's truck, there's a big difference between my truck was broken into, I see it was broken into, I see glass everywhere, versus I see it happening, they're outside my house right now. We explain, one of the things we can talk about is how we prioritize calls as a department, right? So somebody broke into my car, there's glass everywhere, there's priority 1 through 6, where does that fall? There's somebody outside my house right now, I'm looking at them, this is what they're wearing, there's 4 of them, and they're doing it now, it's in progress, priority 1. And so that's important, so those are the type of things, as a group, we educate you on as to what to say. If you are not satisfied with, hey, I called into dispatch, they were rude, I didn't get the type of customer service I think I deserve or I should be getting, hey, you can ask for a supervisor, right? So those are things like we're here to help you out on, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable, like, hey, I know someone at police, I can contact them, I'm going to call Carmela and just find out a little bit more of this.
And those flashlight walks are deterrents too. So if there are people kind of driving in your area, maybe trying to scope out, and they kind of see these big groups of people walking around, that's a deterrent. And then I know we also have community services that help coordinate, like you want to do spring cleaning, they can do big cleanups in your area. So if you guys want to clean out certain areas, we can bring dumpsters for free and then have all that stuff. And again, that's another event to keep your neighborhood connected, but also more activity in the area to kind of keep the riffraff out.
Yeah. You see somebody suspicious walking around a neighborhood, you come out, you're watering your lawn, you're just keeping your eye on them. Hey guys, look out for X, Y, and Z. And these criminals, they know. They're being watched, they don't want to be watched, they don't want to be bothered. They'll move on, unfortunately, to the next neighborhood. Just let it not be here, right? So, anything else? Awesome. Okay, thanks. If you have any questions, I'll be here at the end also, but our contact information is here.
Thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. Wow, what a great crowd. Wonderful. Okay, so we're with the electric and water provider. We service you, and you may see other things on your utility bill, and those are pass-throughs for us. Other departments, for example, solid waste or paramedics are handled by other departments, but they end up on your bill. So I'd like to kind of break up my talk into 2 sections. One is how do we assist? You heard about a lot of the partnerships between the different departments. So how do we assist in making a neighborhood safe? And the second thing I want to talk about a little bit is finances. How can we help you with your utility bill? So first of all, Carmela said really the magic words is activate a space. When the space is active, it's a deterrent. So we've done safety walks with many of these folks behind me, and you identify areas that are deficient in terms of lighting, or there's overgrown trees or things of that nature, and then you have an action plan on what things you can do to make improvements. The things that we provide in terms of street lighting, we're transitioning to all LED street lights. Right now we're about 70% done citywide, and there's 21,000 street lights, so it does take a while, but a good number of street lights now are LEDs, which you'll notice is wider and it gives you better illumination on the roadways. But streetlights can't be everywhere, and so the other thing that we do is we help properties with lighting up. So you'll notice there's property lighting here in the backyard, put it in your front yard, and as you're walking by on these safety walks, it's very clear who's going to be an easier target versus a more difficult target. If you've got a camera, you've got property lighting, it really reduces risk to a great extent. And so we can help with that. Why do we do that? Because as your community electric and water provider, we want to make sure that you're using resources efficiently. So we have a program called Dusk to Dawn, and what it is these lights that Christian is holding up right there, and they have motion sensors, so they don't have to be on all night long, but as somebody walks by, boom, the light goes on. We can provide 2 free for everybody here, every household. What we require is that you do the installation, And if you're income qualified, then we can actually assist with the installation. So we have a lot of programs to help you if you're maybe a senior, fixed income, things of that nature. So we want to provide the resources. There's other types of lights here that our team is able to help you with in terms of lighting up your property and making it less desirable for somebody who wants to do some harm. So that's the safety side of things. Now I want to turn my attention to your utility bill. So how can we help you lower your bills? It's real easy. We reduce your usage, and there's plenty of ways to do that. So LED lights are not only brighter and better illumination, they're also much more energy efficient. So the lights that we're providing, they're 20 watts, right? I mean, I grew up with 100-watt incandescents in my house back in the day, and they were all over the house. Now, the bulbs that we install are 7 watts, 8 watts, 9 watts, significantly less. So just doing the lighting inside of your house helps to reduce your usage. There's other things that we can do, and we provide a free service called a home utility checkup. And what that means is we have a contractor who will schedule an appointment with you, go to your house, and identify where your utility dollars are going. So if you have, for example, a second refrigerator, or if you have maybe an inefficient pool pump or a really old air conditioning system, then we can help you with things like rebates so that you can get something much more energy or water efficient so that you can make good decisions on how to lower your bill and be more sustainable as well. So there's plenty of ways for us to help you. We have our staff here. We have Melinda, who's our General Services Manager. We have Christian over here and Manny. And so we can all help you kind of walk you through how can you make improvements either to help you become more safe in terms of your house, property lighting, or in terms of how can we help you in terms of reducing your water usage or electric usage and lower your bills respectively. All right? That's a quick in a nutshell, but it's getting dark. We provided you with some
We got our flashlights.
so you guys can walk whenever you want. We'll be here to help and assist in what way we can. Yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna say, what you could do too, what I do, I try to know my neighbors and the neighborhood. Cause I could go out there and I know what time that guy leaves for work, what time that car comes back, or you know, who's
Yeah, that's
at
what we
what
do.
hours.
We know when you leave, 10 to 7.
You know, my wife gets mad at that, you know. It's so nosy. But I just, you know, look down, I can tell you five doors down what that guy drives, when he'll be home,
Right.
you know.
Right.
You could do that, you know, just.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Harold.
Come on, Rita.
Like if I'm out there in the daytime or nighttime, and I see a van, you know, coming back and forth, you know, too many times, I'll make a little game of it. I'll try to remember what's his last 3 numbers on his plate.
Absolutely. You know,
I'm trying to remember the whole plate.
a lot of us have these things now. There's a camera on these things. You can take video. There's plenty of ways for you to help each other and help our police department with evidence, right? With things that you can do that helps them to do their job better by engaging with each other and with the utility and with all the other departments here. So anything that we can do to help foster this type of community outreach, I think this type of event is a great way to get started and start activating the space. You have direct contact with your council member who's here, with his team. In addition, we do have a neighborhood services department that's really good at facilitating all sorts of different issues and getting you to the right person in the city, right? There's 3,000 people that work in the city that do something related to public service, and sometimes it's really hard to navigate through, right? We provide a resource. Our call center has a 311 staff, so if you really just don't want to go through the website or go through a phone or whatever, you just want to talk to somebody, dial 311 and we will be able to assist you and direct you to the right person or department to help you with your request. So we also monitor Anaheim Anytime. The number one request that we get for My Anaheim app is my street lights out. And that is a great way for us to know when to go replace. We're not always driving around at night looking for lights that are out, and so it's really great when you can let us know, hey, it's on the corner of Hat Place and Avocado. If you can give us a little bit more information than that, for example, there's a number on the pole itself, and
and so it's probably about this high. So just take a picture of it. Take a picture of that pole number. That helps us find exactly which one it is. And more often than not, we try to get our employees to reconnect with you and let you know when the service has been performed. Our average right now in terms of replacing a bulb is about 2.4 days. So it used to be about 6 or 7 days, and we work really hard to try to streamline that because we know how important having lighting in the community is. So we'll do the best that we can to make sure we facilitate the needs of the community in the fashion that we can. Any other questions for me? Yes, sir.
A few months back, we had a couple weeks without trash pickup, and we were supposed to get refunded. Is there any update on that?
Yes, so Republic Service is the trash provider, and our Public Works Department has negotiated with them so that they can do the refund. And so our billing people have worked through some of the computer issues, and so it should be applied very soon. If you haven't gotten it already, we've already heard that some people have gotten it applied to their
Okay, because
accounts.
I've had 2 bills since then, and nothing's been deducted yet.
Yes, so it is coming.
All right.
Yes, sir.
What is tree trimming? Is that through you or through who?
It depends on what it is. So if it's a private property tree.
No, it's actually for the only light pole that we have, and we have called and they have come, but they literally, the vendor that you guys have, comes in and chops through the center branches, but not to actually make that clear, and it's just really discouraging.
Okay, so we'll get your information, and then we'll look into that one at that one location. Absolutely.
How about a tree that's in a backyard that's like grown up through all the phone and electrical lines? I'm just
We can do
sensing a
some
future
trimming there.
problem for that.
Yes. So when you see these poles, the lower lines are telecommunications. So that's your cable, that's your phone. The ones that are a little bit higher, so for example, this pole right here, you can see we have a transformer.
Yeah.
That's that cylinder
Yeah.
up at top. And then above that are the electrical wires. And so what we can do is if you see trees growing up into kind of past the telephone wires up near to the electrical equipment, then we can provide.
These are even past electrical equipment. It's in someone's backyard though, on the block behind us.
Absolutely. Let us know about that, and then we'll take your information tonight, and
Oh, okay.
we can look into
Yeah.
that. Anything else before I turn it back over to? Am I the last one, or is there?
You're the last.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Yeah. Do I get another round, or?
Yay!
City Hall.
So please stop by our booth before you leave and try to find out which program works best for you. We'd love to help you.
Okay,
I know that our public
my card.
Oh, okay.
So can we get rid of
we
it?
all just turn those on, but if you take a selfie to close off the match, a little bit of light.
Sorry, it's been in my little ID badge for a while, so it's a little funny. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, is there an email on there too? Can I just email the information when we get home?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
absolutely.
I'll just do
Great,
that, yeah.
great. You can keep the pen.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate you all coming out.
I like how the flashing